Good morning. Good morning. How was our weekend? Good, good. We're here. Good. All right. I'll take it. I'll take it. Okay. So I just wanted to review a little bit, right? So we spent the last 2 weeks going over the three big types of arguments for God's existence. But as I said on Thursday, there's still a lot more to discuss, right? A lot of different things that are used to argue for God's existence. So we started off with the cosmological argument. Then we talked about teleological and ontological. This week, we are talking about miracles, which you can consider to be part of the religious experience arguments for God's existence, right? So people who have miraculous religious experiences, right, typically use those experiences, those miraculous events, as evidence for God's existence, right? And so the reason that this didn't count as one of the three previous ones is because it uses a very specific type of approach, which is, again, this is like logic, critical thinking terminology I'm going to throw at you now, called inference to the best explanation, or what we call IBE. Okay, so you guys use this type of reasoning all the time, right? So imagine you were going to start your car one morning, right? Or, if you have a car, imagine you were going to start that car in the morning and it wouldn't start for some reason, right? There could be lots of different reasons for why it doesn't start, right? And you can do a sort of process of elimination to figure out what you think the best explanation is, right? For why the car didn't begin. But here's the problem with inference to the best explanation. It is only an inductive type of reasoning. So this is going back to our beginning of the class, the difference between inductive and deductive reasoning. Anyone remember why induction is less reliable in terms of reasoning than deductive? Last part, yeah.
Okay,
So
okay.
even if the premises are true, right, even in the best possible case, you're exactly right. They only provide probable support, right, for the conclusion. So even if the premises are true, they do not guarantee the truth of the conclusion, which again already shows us one of the biggest problems in using IBE to then reason from a miracle or a religious experience to God's existence, right? Because the idea is you're saying, well, God's existence is the best explanation for this, therefore that being must exist, right? But so there's going to be a lot of criticism of IBE that has nothing to do with its use in arguments for God, right? It's just as a type of reasoning, it's flawed, right? So the idea is some basic criticisms of IBE. Well, one, who knows if you've already considered all of the possible explanations to begin with, right? Before you did your process of elimination, maybe there was one you didn't consider, right? So maybe the explanation you think is the best is only the best of the ones you considered, right? But there could be a better explanation out there that you have not yet considered, right? And again, because of the fallibility of the human mind, even if something appears to be the best, and again, what constitutes best, right? That's going to be a whole nother question. But even if you have something that is the best, it doesn't automatically make it true, right? Even if something is the best explanation for something, that is not necessarily going to indicate that it must exist, right? Again, it's only providing that probable possibility of being the case. Okay, so this is the type of experience or argumentation that's going to be used, right? So little forewarning on the approach, right? This is not a deductive argument, right? So it's different from the last three categories that we looked at, right? Those were all attempts at deductive arguments. They were trying to guarantee the truth of their conclusion beyond a doubt. This approach, off the bat, not going to provide that sort of certainty, right? So it's a whole other category. Then we have to define some terms though, right? Because we want to know exactly what we mean by a religious experience, but in this case, we're going to focus on things that we call miracles, right? Something that is a miraculous phenomena or event. So for those of us who at least took a peek at the PowerPoint, if nothing else, we should be aware that there are at least two different ways we can understand the word miracle, right? And we can call those a strong or a weak version of the word. So who can tell me what the difference is between weak understanding of miracle or a strong understanding of miracle? Even if you can only get one of them, that's good.
Okay.
That's the strong one, is that it is a violation of a law of nature, right? That there are laws of nature that govern how every physical thing in the world operates, right? And that a miracle is God's intervention, right, in those laws to make things behave otherwise, right? So it's violating the law, right? So examples of this would be like, yeah, turning water into wine, unless you're an alchemist and you think that's within the realm of possibilities for the laws of nature, right? Walking on water, right? Resurrection of the dead, right? These types of things would count as strong miracles, right? Violating laws of nature. The weak sense, though, is something else. What's the weak sense? Maybe think of some of the things that people call miracles, and you're like, but is that really a miracle? Violate a law of nature.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, right. So yeah, the idea is that this is already within the realm of possibility, but it's something that we think is like so unlikely, right? It's so like it couldn't be a coincidence, right? It's just this unlikely thing, this super unlikely thing that happens. So maybe you think of like those videos where, a car just like barely just inches by hitting somebody, right? Like it's so close. Right? Exactly, right? It's just these things fall into place. Everything happens at the right moment, right? So it's these really unlikely, unexpected things that typically we think of as good, right? We don't typically ascribe miracles to those negative instances, right?